Have you heard about the International English Language Testing System? You probably have. It's commonly known as the IELTS. And if you want to immigrate to a different country, like Canada or UK, for example, an English-speaking country, or if you want to attend a university in a foreign country, know what your language levels are. You might consider sitting for the IELTS. My name is teacher Linda G. My students call me Linda. Some of them call me ma'am, and some of them call me teacher Linda. And I've been teaching online for 3 years. I've been teaching English as a foreign language online for 3 years. And I've been helping a lot of students prepare for the IELTS. So I'm going to be sharing with you a few tips today that could be helpful. You might already know that you have to submit a band level of 7 or 8, for example, but you might not know what the IELTS is all about. So the first thing that I'm going to suggest for you is to find out what it's about. Essentially, it's an assessment that will evaluate the 4 different skills: speaking, reading, writing, and listening. And you are assessed on your ability to speak, your ability to write, your ability to understand the written word, and of course, your ability to understand the spoken word when it comes to listening. And it's not a pass or fail. It's simply an evaluation of your language skills. And for the IELTS, it's divided up in band levels. So it could be a band 2 or 3 or 4, or if you're a bit more advanced, it might be a 6 or a 7, or if you're extremely skilled, it might be an 8 or a 9. And of course, depending on the university or depending on the country you want to immigrate to, the criterias or the band level might be different. So you need to know what is required. You need to know if you're going to a different country, for example, to immigrate, what is acceptable to them for a band level. If you're going to university, you need to know what that university is requiring, because it may be different from one university to the next. You also need to know that it takes a lot of work to prepare for this international English language testing. It takes a lot of work, so you can't expect to just book it and sit for it without preparing for it. So it's extremely important to prepare for it. Now, there are different ways of preparing for it. Some students simply buy books. Some students look at websites for the IELTS, of course, and use those websites to prepare themselves. Make sure that these websites are good websites, that they are at least giving you the right information. A couple of them that I like are, I really like this website, IELTS Liz. I like the fact that it's divided up in different sections: listening, reading, writing, speaking, and that there are great videos. For example, under the writing, it's divided up under task 1 and 2, because as you may know, there is an academic and a general one. So depending on if you're sitting for the general or the academic, you might have to prepare differently. So this is one great site that I do recommend. Another site that I like and that I use and that I'll share with my students is this one, IELTS Jackie. One of the things that I like about this site is that She gives a lot of different tips. Now I'm just scrolling down here. Task 1, academic, the different types of questions, some tips, common letter topics. This is for the general IELTS. And she also gives great examples and tips for the different essays for task 2. So take a look at some of these sites. Also explore other websites as well. Now, the one thing that I do recommend is, especially for the reading part, is to start reading different things. Now, with the reading, you will have to know how to paraphrase, because oftentimes in the reading, they're not using the same words in the questions. They might use different words. So you really need to try to work on expanding your vocabulary. And it's the same thing for the listening, and of course, for the writing and the speaking. So the more vocabulary you have, the more synonyms you know, the more you know how to paraphrase things, the more you can use more complicated grammar structures, such as instead of just using simple sentences, you might want to use complex sentences. Instead of just using the simple past or the present simple, you may consider using some conditionals, for example, that are a bit more advanced. This is mostly when it comes to the speaking part. So you'll want to start practicing. It's one thing to look at websites and to write essays, for example, but it's also another thing to practice with a person and to get your essays reviewed or corrected and receive some feedback. So you might want to find a tutor, a teacher. For example, I'm a teacher, and you'll find me on the Fluentify or English Score platform. I help my students there. I also work privately with students as well. But there's a lot of different tutors out there that you can pay to help you, of course, with the IELTS, because it's a lot of work. And I think when you work with someone like me or another professional, they will be able to help you, to provide you with some guidelines, with some tips, ways to improve your band levels so that you can eventually move to Canada or UK or wherever you want to move, or that you can get into that university that you've always dreamt of getting into. So general tips: start reading different types of things. Now, for example, if you're looking at the academic, you'll be required to read scientific type of things. It's the same thing with the listening as well. Sometimes with the listening, you'll have a professor giving a dialogue, giving a presentation. And so if you've heard that type of language before, it's going to be helpful for you. So start listening to different podcasts with different accents, podcasts from Australia, podcasts from Canada, podcasts from UK, from Ireland, Scotland, and so on, Australia, right? Start listening to different podcasts so that you can get used to the different accents, because in the listening part, you will have to listen to an audio and then answer certain questions. Well, the audio might be from a person who speaks the English from England, or an Australian English, or maybe one from Ireland, for example. So you have to get used to different accents. And when it comes to writing, you'll either have letters to write. For example, in the general task 1, it's a letter, either a complaint letter or a letter to a friend, So it's important for you to recognize how to write to friends, how to write a formal or semi-formal letter. And with type 2, it's an essay, either an opinion essay, disadvantage advantage essay, a problem solution essay. Now, task 2, for whether it's academic or general, is the same. But the task 1 for writing isn't the same. I mentioned earlier that complaint letters or letters, that's mostly for the general IELTS. But for the task 1, for the academic, you interpret some data. It could be a pie chart, or it could be a bar graph. It could be a diagram or a map. So of course you need to know the language that's associated with that. You want to start reviewing that if you're going to do the academic writing. All right, so I gave you a little bit of information on how to prepare for the IELTS. I hope that it was helpful for you. My name is Teacher Linda G. I'm your teacher, and I'm here to help you improve your language skills. Take care now. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.